everyone. I'm Kimberly Perkins along with Steve Brown, and we have Wesley Ruff somewhere down on the streets here in Salt Lake. He's our roving reporter for the morning. Wes, how are you doing?
Kimberly, I'm doing just fine. The weather's great here. The sun's a little bright, but I'll tell you, we got on the corner of South Temple and Main, we got horses and covered wagons up this street. We got cars up this street. We got bands and floats up this street. They're all getting ready to pound the pavement as the Days of 47 parade. Oh, fun. It's just about to get underway. Let's go talk to the guy who's responsible for all this parade, Jerry Dunyan, the parade chairman. Jerry, first of all, it's the culmination of all the hard work now, getting ready to get underway.
This is an exciting time, and if you want to know the truth, the most fun of the parade is before it comes down the neck of the parade route.
Now, you've got a lot of people, volunteers who have put in their time. How long does it take to organize an event like this?
Our last meeting for the 1989 parade will be in 2 weeks, and our first meeting for the 1990 parade will be the 1st of September. The executive committee will start working before that, though.
And this is where all the hard work pays off, and we wish you well. It's going to be a great day for a parade. Stephen, Kimberly, we'll keep you posted what's going on behind the scenes at the top of the parade route. Back to you.
All right, Wes, thanks very much. As you can hear, the parade's just about to start. We'll be right back in just a minute.
For permanent discount prices and a greater selection of drugstore and department store items, it's Smith's.
I always buy my drugstore items here at Smith's. There's a large variety. The prices are wonderful. They're always low. Can always get the things that I need.
I mean, I could go to ZCMI and I could buy the same thing for a lot more. But it's not worth it to me. Why go to somewhere else and spend that much more money when you get the same exact thing here?
121 years ago, a plan to bring goods to local communities was conceived, which helped Utah's struggling pioneers survive. That plan became known as Zion's Cooperative Mercantile Institution. Through 2 world wars, a depression, human rights changes, Utah and ZCMI have grown together. And the future looks bright as we all look toward tomorrow with a renewed commitment to not just survive, but to fulfill the foresight of our pioneer forefathers.
Welcome back to the Days of 47 parade here on KTVX Channel 4. Steve Brown along with Kimberly Perkins. You are looking at members of the Salt Lake City Police Motorcycle Squad who traditionally lead this parade. There are 14 officers, terrific asset to the community. It's kind of nice to see them in this situation rather than in your rear view mirror. It takes more than 100 hours of training for them to become part of the motorcycle squad, and they are followed, of course, by the Color Guard.
Now presenting the colors are the Color Guard team of the 625th Military Police Company, part of the Utah Army National Guard. They are Sergeant Ed Evans, Corporal Doug Lamping, Spec 4 Jerry Evans, PFC Teddy Ramirez, and PFC Richard Selman.
As they come down Main Street, our broadcast position, just to kind of give you a perspective, is Main Street here at about 350 South, right next to Post Office Place. And the parade takes about 10 to 12 minutes to reach us here, as you see an overview looking up from our camera, which is stationed at 4th South. So you're looking north on Main Street, or East Temple, as it was originally called. It was East Temple until about 1907, and everybody called it Main Street anyway, and so they changed the name about 1907 or 08. But the interesting thing is the Hotel Utah, that wasn't built until 1910, still lists East Temple on the cornerstone. As you pass one day, take a look at that. The Hotel Utah cornerstone listing East Temple on the southwest corner there. How's that for a little trivia to get your morning started?
Fun facts to know and tell.
Some of the crowd lining the Main Street area of the parade here, and of course this really is a great parade for kids, and that's you look out and you see a sea of faces, most of them children.
I don't think I've seen this many children in one spot anywhere in my life. I was remarking how young they are. People bring their littlest babies to this parade. It's wonderful.
There's one who's obviously having a great time this morning. Just perfect weather. I think we have to thank Clayton for the weather, because you know, the rain has not been a problem traditionally in the Days of 47 parade. Back in 46, I think in 1946, it rained, and then in 84 it cleared up, but it's only affected the parade just once.
And even then, it was just a bit of a drizzle.
Sure, nothing, no real problem at all. As you see, again, the Salt Lake Police Motorcycle Squad going through their paces and looking down the parade route as things begin to happen here. We'll be approaching the first band in just a moment. This is the Highway Patrol Motorcycle Squad.
They protect and assist motorists in every corner of our state. This squad spends many hours perfecting the routines that we've been seeing this morning.
Well, you look at these streets, and I think they're happy that it's wide, and certainly so are the other folks. because this has been one of the highlights, I think, for a lot of people come down here to see these motorcyclists. You see one of the folks who's been running for 26 miles there in the background, the marathon, which is just continuing, and he's coming down Main Street, and probably this is the best gallery he's ever run before.
I've got to think that makes the end of his marathon run just a bit easier.
You see the old police car, the old highway patrol car, looks like a Studebaker behind in the background. There we get a look at it. What a good-looking police vehicle.
I know a certain director who got up close and personal with one of these police last Friday night.
Unfortunately, or fortunately, I guess he wasn't in one of this type of vehicle. But here they come, the members of the Utah Highway Patrol. There's a happy trooper driving that car.
I don't think I'd mind seeing him in my rearview mirror.
Well, you might have a chance to outrun him. I've followed you home of an evening, and I know. It is a 1954. Now we get a good close look at it as the officer, the trooper, comes by waving in the old state police cruiser. And following is the new look, as Governor Norm Bangerter and his wife Colleen, the governor looking not too much worse for wear from his elbow surgery. Of course, you may know that he took a trip to Europe and injured that elbow, underwent surgery last week. And so he's obviously doing well in his recuperative effort there and just happy to be here.
Certainly looks in good spirits for this parade. Now, behind the governor, we have Governor Saul Bean. He is the provincial governor of the Korean province of Gyeonggi, Utah's sister state in Korea. The sister state agreement was signed between Utah and the Gyeonggi province in 1984. Governor Im and his wife, Ki Jong-bae, are visiting Utah as a result of Governor Bangerter's official invitation to them during his visit to the Far East last April.
And he's sporting his cowboy hat, so he's really in the spirit of things. The cowboy spirit alive and well in Korea as well, obviously. Parade continues. Clowns. What's a parade without clowns, right? And there's Sammy T, the clown, coming down the parade route down Main Street.
A favorite with the children, for sure.
There's a happy smiling face. Lots of balloons handed out for kids' sake here from KTVX. You'll be seeing those all day long as we look at the next motorcycle unit. This one is from the Salt Lake County Sheriff's Office, performing precision maneuvers in parades and events throughout the state, part of the Sheriff's Posse. They also participate in projects that serve the county of Salt Lake with the general and special police control functions. And there you get the up close and personal view. That's what it looks like from street level with the Sheriff's Posse.
This is a posse that's a bit different from the days of the Wild West, I'd say.
Although we'll be showing you the other half of that later in the parade. They still do use the horses, of course, for search and rescue. And now you see the color guard for Sheriff Pete Hayward. And these folks trooping the colors, members of the mounted posse. And again, we'll show you the full posse in just a few moments. These are the Sheriff's mounted posse members.
And behind the posse is Sheriff Pete Hayward and his wife Jackie. The Sheriff's Office is the largest law enforcement agency in the state of Utah, serving over 700,000 people and covering some 741 square miles.
And there's a guy who's just happy to be here. I'll tell you, every time you see him, he's got that smile on his face. Sheriff Pete Hayward riding in the back with his wife, Jackie.
And I understand every year he is riding this Jeep.
Absolutely. I think it's just a great opportunity for him to get out and meet the people. And as you can see, there are not many other things I think he'd rather be doing on a day like today. Our first band is coming up now, the Salt Lake City Letter Carriers Band, and they've been around for a while. They've been organized since 1920. They perform in concerts and parades throughout the state of Utah, and they have marched in the Days of 47 parade since before 1940. So they know what they're doing, folks. Neither rain nor sleet nor gloom of night has kept them from participating in this parade for almost 50 years.
They have to have one of the longest histories in this parade.
Let's listen to them. Carriers Band.
Well, they've got the crowd hopping. Now, taking this opportunity to remind us of the posterity of their forefathers is the Utah Division of Indian Affairs. This organization looks after the economic and development concerns of Utah's Indian people. Represented are the Ute, Navajo, Paiute, Shoshone tribes.
There you see that beautiful headdress. Indian chief. Horse-drawn carriages, the Surrey coming down, lots and lots of different things to see here on the parade route. Riding in the Surrey that you're looking at, representing Brigham Young and his wife, are Morris Benyon, who is the national president of the Sons of the Utah Pioneers, along with his wife, Faye. Now, that's Surrey and horse, furnished and driven by Reed and Mildred Maxfield from East Midvale, Utah. Surrey with a fringe on top.
And that was a musket that was just fired, if you heard that in the background. I think it rattled everybody just a bit.
That's because what you're looking at now are the members of the Mormon Battalion.
They were organized to honor the original battalion of 500 volunteers who, in the spring of 1846, marched over 2,200 miles from Council Bluff, Iowa to San Diego, California during the Spanish-American War. This was the longest sustained march of infantry in U.S. military history. Brigham Young promised they would be remembered always if they faithfully served and kept their religion. They're so honored today.
You got these folks here who are the direct descendants of members of that battalion as well. Executive officers here, Lieutenant Colonel Elmer Carr and Colonels J.C. Richard and Elmer Jones, the past commanders. And now we're looking at one of the other Sons of the Utah Pioneer entrants. Conestoga wagon and the Prairie Schooner, of course, the two fixtures in the settlement of the West.
These are carrying past President Everett Call and his wife Ann, President-elect Robert Wagstaff and his wife Ruth, and Executive Secretary Lawrence Epperson and his wife Gwen.
The oxen there drawing that Prairie Schooner in the back, and of course that's the way they travel.
Well, you know, they call that an example of the early day mobile home. I like that description. I think it puts it in perspective for us.
It does. They put everything they had into one of these.
It's a hard way to cross a mountain.
It certainly is. Well, the alternative were the hand carts, and we'll be seeing those in just a moment.
These units and the personnel are courtesy of the Pioneer Trail State Park, located at the mouth of Emigration Canyon.
Look at that ox team. Well, maybe we're going to see that they can turn the ox team around in the space of the street. Just about, anyway. As the streets continue to provide the function for which Brigham Young designed them. Here you get a look at some of the families walking behind. This is the John Deere wagon and the Outriders. The wagon's driven and handled by Ken and Lucille Hummel of Hooper, Utah, and Cloyd and Zeta Seeley. And the Outriders are Lee Jeff and Montel Seeley. The last wagon will be driven by Don Clements. And the Outriders there are Dave Jepson and Preston Jepson, Outriders, a.k.a. Walkers. They're the folks that didn't have the opportunity to get inside.
And dressed in some of this authentic Pioneer garb, it's going to be a long walk for these folks.
But at least it's only a few miles down paved street, so I guess things could be worse. They can go home, take a shower, and then enjoy the rest of the festivities for the day. Great educational opportunity, too, for the kids to come down here, you know, and whether they're from Pioneer stock or not, to recognize some of the things that went on and made the city and the state what it is today, and an opportunity to see some of the hardships these people endured. I think it's amazing. Only 2,000 were in that first company that came into the valley in 1847, and of course there are more than that in the first 100 yards of parade spectating here on Main Street.
You see a wagon like this in a book, and then you see it in person, it really makes a difference.
It does. It's quite a Spartan existence, no question about it. But at least they had a chance to ride as opposed to these folks.
These are the handcart pioneers. For the Mormon pioneers that couldn't afford teams and wagons, the trip across the plains was made pushing or pulling their meager belongings in handcarts like these. Each of these handcarts is from one of the chapters of the Sons of the Utah Pioneers. The first two carts are from the Castle Valley Pageant and the East Mill Creek chapter, and are manned by the J. Guyman family and the Alton Hanson family.
I tell you, they had to be a sturdy stock, there's no question about it. Each cart would be loaded with up to 500 pounds of personal belongings, and then they pulled it the 1,000 miles to Salt Lake. That's just incredible to think that they could do that. The next 2 carts belong to the Sugar House chapter and the Castle Valley pageant, with the Richard Paul Hansen family making them go.
The Hansen family are descendants of one of the first settlers in Castle Valley. Now, the 3rd row of carts are manned by Lane and Lavona Seeley, along with their 4 children from the South Davis chapter of the Sons of Pioneers.
It's hard to believe, but 3,000 pioneers made their way across the plains using hand carts. It was one of the more common means because of the obvious financial benefits. Doing the heavy work for the 4th set of hand carts, Chris and Melody Johnson and their children and the entire Leroy Ward family. And the next row of hand carts being rested by the Lewis Barfus family and Robert and Linda Clegg along with their children as well.
We also had the East Mill Creek chapter and in the Canyon chapter in Tooele represented with those hand carts. The next entry from the Sons of Utah Pioneers is their float, depicting our pioneer heritage and things to remember. This really shows the way it was. We have a mother bathing the kids in the old tin tub while big sister Anna hangs out the wash and back. And if you take a close-up look, sneaking up onto the cabin is Sean and his Indian friend Peter, trying to swipe Mom's fresh-baked pies. And of course, we've got Mickey heading for the little outhouse.
Pioneer life in the 1840s. And we'll be back with more of our Days of 47 parade coverage on Channel 4 in just a moment.
121 years ago, a plan to bring goods to local communities was conceived, which helped Utah's struggling pioneers survive. That plan became known as Zion's Cooperative Mercantile Institution. Through 2 world wars, a depression, human rights changes, Utah and ZCMI have grown together. And the future looks bright as we all look toward tomorrow with a renewed commitment to not just survive, but to fulfill the foresight of our pioneer forefathers.
The Ghostbusters are at Hardee's. Get a slime or silly set with hamburger, regular fries, and green high-C Ecto Cooler. Only at Utah Hardee's. But hurry before they disappear. And watch out for those ghosts.
If you can't decide between Hardee's chocolate and Hardee's vanilla, now you can have them both. The cool twist cone, only at Hardee's.
What's this? The competition is flooding Gotham with dastardly car deals. Can nothing be done? Look!
It's back!
Thawne is back at Toyota dealers everywhere. Armed with Toyota quality and Toyota value, Thawne is out to save you big with the biggest incentives and option discounts in Toyota history. Yes, Thawne could save thousands, millions. Will Tommy be saved in time? Find out now. Same Toyota Thawne, same Toyota dealer near you. Stay tuned.
Take a look at this gorgeous float coming down the streets here, folks. Riding on the Days of 47 Royalty Float, which is sponsored by Modern Display, is Days of 47 Queen Sherlyn Anderson of Orem. First attendant Denise Warner of Orem, and second attendant Barbie Burrow of Orem. All of our queens this year are from Orem, which I think is interesting. They're also all direct descendants of Utah pioneers.
And Wesley Ruff had a chance to speak with the Queen earlier. Boy, he has tough duty, doesn't he?
With me now, Sherlyn Anderson, the queen of the Days of 47 parade. How did you get to be the queen?
Well, there's a pageant held May 20th, and there were 60 contestants. It was an all-day affair.
How many pageants have you entered in your life?
This is my second one that I've ever been in.
If you're going to win one, this is a good one to win.
Yes, it is. There's a lot of publicity involved and a lot of speaking engagements we get to do, so it's been really fun.
And what about the parade itself? Are you excited about this?
Oh, yes. My first major parade. We were in the 4th of July parade, but this is the biggie, so.
Did they teach you how to wave to do that?
Yeah. Elbow, elbow, wrist, 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 yes. We practice.
Well, she's obviously done a good job of practicing. That is our Days of 47 Queen, Sherlyn Anderson of Orem, as you see the Modern Display float making its way down Main Street. Now we're looking at the Tooele High School Band under the direction of Ray Farron. Of course, what would any parade be without the sounding of an old-fashioned band? The Marching Buffaloes of Tooele High School. men and young ladies who are very happy to be here today. The Tooele High School Marching Band.
And a welcome here to our senior senator from Utah, Jake Garn, and his wife, Kathleen. Senator Garner, you know, was one of the first civilians to ride in the space shuttle program back in 1985.
Of course, Senator Garn, I know, loves to try and get back to Salt Lake as often as he can, especially during the days of 47. This really is a time when you've got no enemies out there. You know, you can ride in that parade and wave and smile, and everybody's happy because everybody's celebrating. That's right. It's a little different than in November, you know, when you have to convince people, but this is the good time of year. Senior Senator Jake Garn. And, of course, riding right behind him, Senator Orrin Hatch and his wife, Elaine. Senator Hatch's great-grandfather, Jeremiah Hatch, was the founder of Vernal, Utah. And, of course, that's the Uinta Basin, and that's part of Senator Hatch's pioneer legacy. Wesley Ruff had a chance to talk with Senator Hatch before the parade began.
Senator Hatch, first of all, a great chance to be in the parade, celebrate our pioneer heritage.
Well, it really is. You know, the more I come to this, the more I realize what a great heritage it is. And the more I serve back there in Washington, I realize what these pioneers mean to this country.
And when you head down the parade route, you get a lot of advice from people telling you how to do your job.
Every once in a while, I get some very unique suggestions. But it's been a lot of fun, and most people are very, very friendly.
You enjoy coming back to do this then?
I do. This is the highlight of the year, really, from a parade standpoint. And it's just beautiful today. It's nice and cool, it's sunshiny, and people are everywhere. And there's a lot of traffic jams around here, but it's great.
Thank you very much, Senator.
Senator Orrin Hatch and his wife, and now one of our award-winning floats.
This is one of our first award-winning floats. This is historical #1. Nothing characterizes the hardships faced by the pioneers more than their methods of transportation, as we've seen this morning. And this float maybe puts it all in perspective. They call it Pioneer Transportation Past to Present, from the Kaysville, Utah stake, from the covered wagons of the past to the space shuttle of today.
Of course, that probably has special significance for Senator Jake Garn. As we mentioned earlier, one of the first civilians to ride in the space shuttle. And now you're looking at Salt Lake's mayor, Palmer DePaulis, and his wife, Jean. They just returned from a trip to Russia in June to represent Salt Lake's goodwill and establish a sister city with Chernovsky in Russia. Of course, Mayor DePaulis overseeing the completion and restoration of the city-county building, and I think it's terrific that we got it done in time for these days of 47, because that's also a part of our heritage, that historic building, grand old building in downtown Salt Lake.
And he is a happy man today. Ah, do I hear a bit of Scotland in the background?
Aye, Lassie, you hear the pipes, right? The Utah Pipe Band.
They're celebrating their 50th year. They've represented Utah throughout the western United States. The pipe major is Andrew Merrill, and drum major is Paul Steinger. Let's listen up.
Now you're looking at the KSL float with the personalities aboard, and they're celebrating their 40th birthday this year, a birthday which we celebrated last year. And I see my friend Paul James on the float, who just retired, but I guess he's going to get his last ride in the Days of 47 parade. Channel 4 went on the air 41 years ago, KSL following a year, so it's a real birthday celebration for television stations in the Salt Lake Valley as well.
Next wagon. This is from A1 Moving and Storage. This original moving wagon was first used in Utah back in the 1890s. Since then, A1 has changed to much more modern and faster methods of transportation, we hope. The horses that you see are the largest breed of horse. They're called Percheron, and they're rugged draft horses that come from the Perche region of France. This is called the Country Cousins Express.
Took them a while to get moved, I think. I don't think you moved quite as often in those days. Take a while to put all the... make sure you get your washer and dryer in there, could you? All right, we are looking at the silver anniversary edition of the Job Corps, and of course the Clearfield Job Corps, a pioneer of this highly successful youth organization. The theme of their float, the future belongs to the educated, and that emphasizes their commitment to train the complete person, academically, vocationally, and socially. And riding the float are the students from the Clearfield Job Corps Center. You know, the Job Corps program is one that's been extremely successful. I was just talking the other day, George Foreman, the former heavyweight champion, was a graduate of the Job Corps, Clearfield Job Corps, way back. But
really?
They've been going for a long time and certainly doing a lot of good. Clearfield Job Corps.
They had to work a long time on that float, I'll tell you.
They did. There's some real work involved, and you can see it's appreciated by... There's a happy camper with his own little trumpet this morning.
I've been told that different organizations can spend upwards of what, $10,000?
Some of the floats go above $10,000, and of course, the work is painstakingly done.
Following the float are the Clearfield Job Corps Rangers. This fine marching group makes about 150 public appearances every year, and each and every member volunteers to be a ranger in addition to their full-time academic and vocational training.
Looking sharp as they troop the colors, and there's a look at the Rangers, Precision Marching Group.
Joe Laboto is the current director of the Job Corps Rangers. This group's been performing publicly for more than 20 years. A lot of experience in that group.
There is, and you can see them wearing their colors proudly. They've got the pants bloused, and they are strutting tall, members of the Clearfield Job Corps Rangers. Good opportunity to tell you that this parade and, of course, the telecast here today, all part of just a huge Days of 47 celebration going on throughout the state. There are parades in many locales. There are, of course, fireworks tonight and picnics and parties and park gatherings and you name it, just about everything going on here at the Days of 47. An up-close look at the Clearfield Job Corps Rangers as they come down. Next is Police Chief Mike Sobrias, and his wife Kathleen. It's Mike's first Days of 47 parade as the Chief of Police. He's responsible for the Policemen on Bicycles program in downtown Salt Lake, which he initiated, and it's been a highly successful program. It seems he's chosen a rather more conventional mode of transportation today, though, in the back of that red convertible. Mike's quite a golfer, too. Had a chance to participate in a tournament with him a couple of weeks ago, so he's not spent all his time in the office.
Well, with this next float coming down the street, consider this. What would Utah be like without the telephone? Well, our next float portrays the last splice of the first transcontinental telephone line in June of 1914 near Wendover, Utah. It was 110 years ago that a local department store put in Utah's first telephone. After that, the Utah Telephone Company grew so fast that by 1907, the Wasatch Exchange was the longest telephone line in the world. I'm doing my part. I use my telephone all the time.
That's right. That's a heck of a way to start reaching out and touching. Look at the guy climbing the pole.
Well, speaking of communications here, we're going to take a quick break and come right back. Stay with us. The Days of 47 parade continues.
Today's parade is being brought to you by Hardee's. We're out to win you over. And by Baskin-Robbins 31 flavors.
The Ghostbusters are at Hardee's. Get a slime or silly set with hamburger, regular fries, and green high-C Ecto Cooler. Only at Utah Hardee's. But hurry before they disappear. And watch out for those ghosts.
If you can't decide between Hardee's chocolate and Hardee's vanilla, now you can have them both. The cool twist cone, only at Hardee's.
Smith shoppers tell why drugstores are becoming a thing of the past.
For me, the reason I come to Smith's is that I can get my grocery items, my shampoos, my cosmetics, my aspirins all in one place, and it's real convenient. And also I come here because it's got the best prices of anywhere around.
I'm quite surprised at the variety and selection that Smith's has for their makeup and perfume items. Most of the time you'd have to go to a specialized store such as a makeup counter to find such items.
For about the same calories in this scrumptious pinwheel surprise, you could be enjoying Baskin-Robbins' new Low Light and Luscious, sweetened with 100% NutraSweet. It's sugar-free. This Tower of Temptation may be low in fat, but so is Low Light and Luscious. Smooth, creamy, and 97% fat-free, with 1/3 less calories than ice cream and all the taste you'd expect from Baskin-Robbins. So instead of Sprouts on a raft, why not enjoy Low Light and Luscious, only at Baskin-Robbins?
Welcome back to the Days of 47 parade in downtown Salt Lake City. You are looking at some of the dignitaries riding along. That's Commissioner Bart Barker of the Salt Lake County Commission, and along with his wife, Patty. Bart Barker riding with his wife as chairman, or as member, rather, of the Salt Lake County Commission. Bart makes sure the city's fine arts programs and summer youth programs run smoothly, and I'm sure he's glad to see the fruits of his labor there. And there's Mike Stewart, the chairman of the commission, along with his wife as well.
Commissioner Stewart is in his third term as commissioner, and he's responsible for human services in the county of Salt Lake.
And now you're looking at the Sister City display here. Peace Through People is the theme of that display with the Sister Cities.
Pioneers from across the seas.
The Sister City program has really been a unique one and an interesting one, I think, for Salt Lake, and certainly the cultural learning that is established through this is really of great benefit. And of course, we just spoke earlier about Mayor Palmer DePaulis setting up a Sister City arrangement with Chernovsky in the Soviet Union. So not only the Korean Sister City program that we spoke of earlier, and this is Japan being represented here, but expanding beyond that.
We also have folks here from Taiwan, the Philippines, and Bolivia. The four sister cities have been working together for nearly 30 years.
And those cities, should we tackle that? Well, what the heck? Let's do that, shall we? Because those cities are Matsumoto in Japan, Keelung in Taiwan, Quezon in the Philippines, and Oruro in Bolivia. There's the Matsumoto display right there. Beautiful pagoda. And the Sister Cities float that follows the marchers again with the representatives of those various cities. They've come a long way to participate in this Days of 47 celebration. And the four sister cities have been working together for nearly 30 years.
It's lovely to see them in their native costumes like this, even the children.
Quite an experience for those young people to ride on that float. Salt Lake Sister Cities, and maybe next year we'll have the representatives of the Soviet Union riding as well.
What a lovely idea.
All right, dressed in her Arabian costume is Dolores Hanson.
Dolores is a regular in the Days of 47 parade. She and her horse, Shoxy, have been participating in this annual celebration for the past 12 years. Dolores says that this parade is one of the most fun events in which she participates.
Well, I bet she's happy for those cooler temperatures today in the shade, because I'm sure that outfit gets a little warm when she gets down in the sun towards the conclusion of the parade at Liberty Park. Dolores Hanson, what a beautiful horse.
A bit of maneuvering for the crowd here.
You know, whenever I get on horseback, mine wants to do that too, but not when I want it to. So you're looking at the next float, a tribute to Utah's mining history, and it comes from the Taylorsville Stake. From the very earliest days, rather, the sourdough miners panning Utah's streams for gold to today's modern mining methods, mining has played a key role in Utah's development.
I'd love to know what's underneath this float. It looks like a tank.
It's one very warm driver with some Volkswagen frame, I think. Well, mining certainly has played a very important part in Utah's history since the days of the pioneers. Men and women have been drawn to Utah to make their living mining the mountains of the West. Their pioneering spirit helped to shape Utah's early history and guide Utah's development. Of course, that continues today. And speaking of development, there's Arrested Development in motion, and the child looking on that says, "What is that?"
Well, the music you hear coming up in the background is the West Jordan High School Band. These are future members.
That's right,
there.
along with some help from the sidelines.
The West Jordan High School Jaguar Marching Band has participated in the Days of 47 parade every year since the school opened in 1981. They've performed throughout Utah, California, Hawaii, and Canada. They've won numerous awards in both parade and field show competitions and are proud to represent West Jordan High School and West Jordan City again this year. Drum majors this year, Nicole McNeil and Warren Worsley.
There's a young lady. That's a study in concentration right there, folks. As we mentioned at the top of the program, the parade this year, 140 entrants. And it will take almost 2 hours for them to make the march from the top of Main Street to the conclusion at Liberty Park.
It's an exercise in endurance for some of these marchers, I think.
It is, and I think that's the way to ride right here, as the members of the Salt Lake City Council are doing. Wayne Horrocks, the vice chairman of redevelopment, and with him his wife Betty, and you see there Florence Bittner, who's the chairman of the redevelopment agency. And that brings $200 million in new construction into Salt Lake City, so that's obviously a very vital role. A couple of members of the council riding in those convertibles. Florence Bittner there. And there you get a look at Wayne Horrocks and his wife Betty. Riding in the convertible, and what a great day for a joyride. There you get a wave from the convertible driver. That's one Tony Archuleta driving the convertible. I collect my $5 for mentioning his name on television later.
Oh, now you car buffs, pay special attention. Next are 3 antique cars, and as every classic car owner will tell you, each car has its own history. The 1913 Apperson, owned by Jeff Sidwell, is in fact a very rare automobile. There are only 3 known to exist anywhere in the world. Also today we've got a 1915 Dodge here, owned by Cameron Sidwell. In World War I, the car was used as a military command vehicle.
And you look, there's right in front of us, it says 1915 Dodge. The side says 1911 Kissel car, but we'll defer to somebody's better judgment anyway, as they probably slipped the other one. It is a Kissel, a 1911 Kissel. We were supposed to have the 1915 Dodge. I guess probably had trouble on the way, so they substituted the 4-year-older Kissel with it. And boy, what a beautiful automobile that is. And that's followed by that Apperson that you were talking about. And you want to talk rare, as you said, only 3 of them known to exist anywhere. Beautiful vehicles.
Now up behind that is our 1915 Dodge.
Okay, you're looking at the Apperson, and the Dodge made it, so what didn't make it? The Pierce Arrow is what didn't make it.
Maybe we'll see that later on.
All right. There's the Apperson, the 1913. And there's our 1915 Dodge. It did make it. Young man in there waving to the crowd. Beautiful old cars.
I can only imagine the work it takes to keep these in mint condition that they are.
I love the original rag top on that thing. The great soft top on it. 1915 Dodge, and from the old to the much newer, that's right. Newer convertibles moving along. And I believe what we have here, we have a jump in the, because these are folks representing the sister cities again, I believe. The Taiwanese representative on the near side. Actually, on both of them, they are representatives of Taiwan and the Sister City program that you saw going out of frame there. Smiling away. We have a huge delegation from the Sister Cities, which is really nice to see.
It's a nice show of support.
From Keelung, Taiwan. This has to be a unique experience, I would think, from Eastern culture to the wild, wild West days of '47. And now we're back in history again.
Back to the antique cars.
And this is the
1903 Cadillac. Is that what that is?
I believe it's an 05 is what they've listed it as. It was going to be an 03. And what the heck, folks, we just roll with the punches here. It's an early 1900s Cadillac, and I think it's an 05.
And this is owned and restored by Clyde White. It has only one cylinder, and after finishing the restoration, Clyde has driven the car on national tours. This thing has gone across the nation.
Well, mine's gone across the state on only one cylinder, too. I don't think it was designed that way, but that's the way it runs these days.
Somebody said that's got as much horsepower as a lawnmower.
It's got a lot more style, though. Now, there's the Rio. You see the emblem on the Rio. It's 1913 Rio.
This is owned by Dave Angel and has also been on a number of national tours. Most recently was driven the 500 miles from Reno to Salt Lake.
That's incredible. You know, 500 miles in that, I think, would feel like 500 miles as well. As we now look at the 1919 Model T. Actually, it's a 1912 Model T, owned by Rex Zellinger.
This is what they call the old Tin Lizzie, is it?
1912, that's right. And this one has had some miles on it, too. It's been a working machine.
It was used as a taxi cab up in Park City in the old days.
He's squeezing the horn. I'm not sure what's coming out, but he's working at it anyway. A 1912 Model T. Well, he's got the straw hat on and the knickers, and I guess if you're going to drive a 1912 Model T, you ought to be appropriately dressed. Back to the new again. This is Willie Stoller, the chairman of the city council. Of course, a former Salt Lake City police officer, part of the Commission on Youth. Willie's a guy who I know likes to get out as well. In fact, I'm not sure what was going on in the city the other day. In the golf tournament we played with the police chief, Willie was there as well. So I'm not sure who was minding the store, but there's a happy camper. How's my golf swing, Willie says. Just as bad as it always was. Willie Stoller. That Commission on Youth, incidentally, is a group composed of several people in Salt Lake County that deal with the behavioral and drug problems confronting today's youth. And, of course, you can't find a much more important task than that. And then this is Rosalind Kirk, who is an English professor at Salt Lake Community College. And she's worked with the neighborhood residents to establish a new community recreation center. She, too, is a member of the Salt Lake City Council.
And coming up behind, the music we hear is the Layton High School Band from Layton, Utah. I visited Layton and talked to some folks up there. Nice group of young people. Let's listen up to these folks.
I think it was Zippity Doo-Dah we caught the tail end of, and of course we know what that's associated with, and the Disney float will be coming along in a little while, but these are members of the Layton High Band. A little liquid refreshment there taken by some of the band members. Get the water bottle.
And from Provo City, we have one small step for man, one giant leap for mankind. That is certainly appropriate for this year. Provo's fun is celebrating the 20th anniversary of man's first step on the moon, saluting the dedicated men and women who pioneered our country's venture into space, what you might call the next frontier. Riding Provo City's float are Miss Provo, Christine Spencer, her attendants Lisa Stoddard, Michelle King, Deirdre Jensen, and Becky Cutler.
What a beautiful float.
Beautiful young women.
For the work involved in this is just incredible. As you watch it go by and you think that every one of those pieces of plastic has to be hand stapled on there and, of course, crafted, and it has to be sturdy enough for them to ride. It is just amazing. Theme of the float, a heritage of beauty, and then the one small step for man, one giant leap for mankind. Our next float is the Centerville North Stake, May 10th, 1869. The Golden Spike driven, of course, at Promontory, symbolizing the finishing of the Transcontinental Railroad.
This historic event, remembered here by the Centerville North Stake, joined the country from the Atlantic to the Pacific. The joining of the Central Pacific and the Union Pacific Railroad opened the West and was an essential part of the settling of Utah.
You have the Spike and, of course, one of the youngsters riding with the steam engine there.
Say that Spike is just a wee bit large for the size of the train, but that's okay.
It may be, but I imagine when the last one was driven, it probably felt like it was that big. Centerville North Stake. And we should mention that many of the floats that are in the parade, of course, are done by community, by business, and many by religious groups as well. And now you see one of the business entrants, the Utah Jazz. Their theme is a past to remember, celebrating their Midwest Division championship and the best season in the franchise history. And what you're looking at now, members of the Utah Jazz West Warren Bank Jazz Band. They're riding on the float along with members of the organization. A year to remember, and I'm sure they'd probably like to look forward and maybe spend a little more time in the playoffs this year than last.
Well, this float has all the little ones craning their necks trying to catch a glimpse of someone.
Who's there, right?
Someone from the organization.
Well, we'll let it get closer and see if we can recognize anybody. Very honestly, most of the members of the organization are still out of town because the California Summer League is going on, and that's where the rookie and the free agents are, along with a couple of veterans. And the veterans have not reported for veteran camp yet, and many of them leave the state for the summer. So rounding them up on the 24th of July may be a difficult proposition. You look at one of the mimes there going alongside.
He looks a bit bewildered.
Well, there's the view from behind him. You see the crowd of people standing along the sidelines here just enjoying themselves as the Utah Jazz float comes by, and I don't see anyone that looks like a player on that float yet, so everyone's under about 6'8". So I think we can safely assume that they're non-players, that's right. Or at least non-basketball players. We got the musicians certainly, though.
Now look at this tuba player on roller skates who just cruised by. That's a first.
Well, this is the float from the Salt Lake Hunter East Stake, and I see the old Union Jack, so this must be the British contribution to Utah.
This is a bit of your heritage here, Steve. The early Mormon missionaries to Britain, while visiting the town of Preston, which I understand is about 20 miles from your birthplace, noticed a large sign across the road which read, "Truth will prevail." And that's the theme of this float, sponsored by the Salt Lake Hunter East Stake. Many of the early pioneers had traveled to Utah from England, and their skills and talents really helped substantially in Utah's growth.
You got the beehive, of course, and the statement that they saw, "The truth will prevail," and then the depiction of the Union Jack. And that's right down in front of our broadcast position. You see the clown entertaining the kids on the side of the road. Bill McHenry riding atop his glittering silver mount. Now, he's been riding in shows and parades for more than 40 years. When he's not riding, he is the owner and operator of Bill and Nada's Cafe. Commonly known in this state as Bill and Nada's, but Nada says her name is Nada. His cafe's been in business for more than 43 years at the same location. Bill McHenry.
I think riding in the parade helps keep him young.
I think so.
And the Humane Society of Utah says, hey, our animal friends are pioneers too. The Humane Society of Utah's float emphasizes the tremendously important role played by animals when the pioneers settled the Salt Lake Valley. Consider this, without chickens laying eggs, cows giving milk, mules plowing fields, and dogs herding sheep, our pioneer ancestry would not have survived. Remember, your pet has a pioneer heritage too, so give him an extra treat today, maybe. Riding in the float with our animals are James Andrews, star of the Utah Department of Transportation Don't Waste Utah campaign, and his wife Cynthia, Marie Moore, and Sophie Huck.
And of course, you can hear in the background the Salt Lake Scots Pipe Band, organized more than 25 years ago. Since that time, participated in many community parades and celebrations, as well as the Highland Games in Utah and Colorado, California, Washington, and up in British Columbia. Its members have piped for many social functions. The band is led by Pipe Major Dennis McMaster, there's a Scottish name for you, and Drum Major Monty Morgan. Let's listen to the Salt Lake Scots Pipe Band, directed by Dr. Charles Hughes.
Now this is a special-looking float. When the first company arrived in the valley, Brigham Young made a promise that the desert valley would blossom like a rose. And indeed, the Salt Lake Valley has flowered. This remembrance is sponsored by the bountiful Mueller Park Steak.
Well, they've got the bleak look, and of course they are an award winner. You see them carrying their trophy. And they've got the rather Spartan look from the wagon down onto the blossoming rose with the temple and the high-rise and the state capitol down below to show how far we've come. Well, we will come further in just a few moments, but we'll take a break now as KTVX Channel 4's Days of 47 parade coverage continues right after this.
Today's parade is being brought to you by Smith's, the certified low-price leader, and by your Toyota dealers. Toyota quality. Who could ask for anything more?
Holy rebates! Can't anybody save me on a truck deal? Fun!
The fun is on at your Toyota dealer. All over Gotham, the competition is plotting some fiendish truck deals. But never fear, Con is armed with the biggest incentives and option discounts in Toyota history.
Thanks, Don.
Con will save thousands, millions Will Judy be saved in time? Find out now. Same Toyota-thon, same Toyota dealer near you. Stay tuned.
121 years ago, a plan to bring goods to local communities was conceived, which helped Utah's struggling pioneers survive. That plan became known as Zion's Cooperative Mercantile Institution. Through 2 world wars, a depression, human rights changes, Utah and ZCMI have grown together. And the future looks bright as we all look toward tomorrow with a renewed commitment to not just survive, but to fulfill the foresight of our pioneer forefathers.
The Ghostbusters are at Hardee's. Get a slime or silly set with hamburger, regular fries, and green high-C Ecto Cooler. Only at Utah Hardee's. But hurry before they disappear. And watch out for those ghosts.
If you can't decide between Hardee's chocolate and Hardee's vanilla, now you can have them both. The cool twist cone, only at Hardee's.
Back on Main Street, downtown Salt Lake City, and we continue with our coverage of the Days of 47 parade, originally called Pioneer Days, and they changed that in 1931. They called it Covered Wagon Days, and they didn't call it Days of 47 until 1947, the 100th anniversary of it. You're looking at the float from the city of Sandy. The state of Utah enjoys a rich cultural heritage. As early as the 1860s, the Salt Lake Theater was recognized as equal to any theater in the East. And since that time, Utah, of course, has fostered artistic organizations which rank nationally and internationally. The Sandy City Arts Council is proud to have been part of Utah's cultural heritage. They have the Mountain Ballet, the Mountain West Theater, and the American West Symphony and Chorus. And you see riding the city float there from Sandy, Miss Sandy, Carmen Packard, along with her attendants Julie Long and Elisa Payne. And there's a young man who has a view from the top. The unicycle riders.
As we get a view from the bottom of him.
That's one way to traverse the parade route, I guess.
Don't need to worry about the crowds in that case. Here we have the Salt Lake Holiday Steak paying tribute to the Chinese people of Utah. As early as the 1860s, Chinese came here to work on the Transcontinental Railroad, and many stayed and brought their families, adding their traditions to the culture of Utah. In front of the float is a magnificent dragon with its customary dragon teasers, and the dancers on the float are performing traditional Chinese fan and ribbon dances. A taste of Chinatown here in Salt Lake City.
Some work involved in that float as well. Our Asian heritage. This float from the Murray South State commemorates legislation that was passed February 12th of 1870, which allowed women the right to vote in Utah. And Utah should be proud that they were the first state in which women were able to vote. It wasn't until August 18th, 1920, 50 years after, that the 19th Amendment was added to the United States Constitution. So Utah pioneered politically as well. That's right. And this, of course, commemorates women's suffrage here in the state of Utah in 1870.
Those figures are mechanized. That's quite a feat to get that going, I'm sure.
It really is. Float produced by the Murray South Stake.
Here we have the fantastic music of the Carbon High School Band with Brett Hansen as its director. And Wesley Ruff had a chance to talk with one of the band members before the parade started. Let's listen what he has to say.
Shay Bradshaw of Carbon Marching Band. Shay, how many bands do you guys, or how many parades do you guys march in a year?
Close to 5 or 6, probably, because we do locals in Price.
Is it tough duty doing the parade?
Oh, yeah. It's hard work. We got to get up at 6 o'clock every morning. We go out marching for 3 days a week. It's hard work.
A lot of practice then. Thank you very much.
I think that practice has paid off.
Carbon High Band, that's right. Coming over from Price. They strike up the band again. sun's starting to kind of creep in front of us a little bit, as you can see on the west side of the street as it starts to clear the buildings behind us now. Again, just a gorgeous Pioneer Day. Couldn't have asked for better. And the temperature downtown here in Salt Lake, probably in the mid-70s to perhaps even 80 degrees, but it's just perfect parade weather. Heating up to about 85 this afternoon. It should be a great day.
Not as hot as it's been, and I think that's a relief to everybody sitting on the sunny side of the street.
I think you're right there. You're looking at this 1917 Model T. And this was owned by Scott Tuscher. And boy, is that a beautiful car. He's got the wax job on that, shining, and disappears into the shade right in front of us there. And you're also looking at the 1939 Packard, owned by Doug Carner. Now, this was originally owned by the Three Stooges.
None other than
that's right. No,
Larry Moe and
Yeah, I thought maybe you were thinking of Clayton, Wesley, and myself, but no, that's not true. This was Larry Moe and Curly, the original Three Stooges, and the 1939 Packard. Gorgeous automobile.
Thumbs up to you, too.
And now the familiar sight of the old spinning bucket.
Yes, KFC. Harmon's Cafe at 39th South and State is the birthplace of Kentucky Fried Chicken. It was 1952 when Pete Harmon served the first of Colonel Sanders' now famous Kentucky Fried Chicken. Of course, since then, Kentucky Fried Chicken franchises have spread worldwide. Kentucky Fried Chicken will always be remembered, though, as a part of Utah's heritage.
And Pete Harmon's still allowed to call it Harmon's Kentucky Fried Chicken when the rest of the world had to call it the Colonel's. It's Harmon's in Utah and probably always will be. That's a true pioneering effort there. You're looking at the Centerville, Utah Steak Float as it comes towards us, and no, that's not a Batman promo. Of course, you see the gulls on there, and despite all the time and the effort that the pioneers gave to raise their crops, it was futile because of the hordes of crickets that began to descend and destroy their fields. And of course, the legend of the gulls is now well known. Remembered in the float by the Centerville, Utah Steak, the answer to the pioneer prayers as the seagulls came and devoured the crickets and helped them to bring those crops in. And of course, this is well remembered here with the seagulls on the float and the pioneer family.
They did a magnificent job making that mountain.
They really did. The miracle of the gulls.
Our next group of riders is from Rexburg, Idaho, the Americanas. Each of the riders is atop a black horse with matching equipment and carries an American flag. This group performs many times annually throughout the Intermountain West, and Wes Ruff talked to these folks before the parade got started.
Hi, this is Mel Griffith. Mel, people in parades love to see horses. Do the horses love the parade?
Oh, yeah, it does them good. Yeah, horses enjoy being pampered with, just like people do.
How much time do you have to spend practicing this kind of stuff?
Oh, we practice a couple nights a week, and then all these horses have had about 3 baths this week, and they've been manicured just like a girl getting ready for a queen contest.
Well, they look good. Good luck in the parade today. Thank you very much.
Well, I'm glad to know that they've been bathed 3 times this week, because I worried about that as I sat up here. They do take care of those horses, don't they?
What a great line. I love it.
From Rexburg, Idaho. Now, that has to be a tough way to make the parade route. The young lady standing 1 foot on each of 2 horses' saddles. That makes the distance down here a ways, I guess.
I can't imagine them doing that for 2 hours, but they might.
All the way from Rexburg, southeastern Idaho. Glad to have them here as part of the parade. And now we get a look at the Murray City Corporation float. It's the winner of the Civic Government Award. This year, the float from Murray City carries a replica of the famous Murray smokestacks. Now, the stacks represent the focal point straight to the center of the Salt Lake Valley and project Murray City's future of family, small business, and recreation that makes Murray a community worth remembering. Riding the float, you see Miss Murray, Alice Stevens, along with her attendants Jennifer Chandler and Melissa Briggs. Winner of the Civic Government Award, the float from Murray.
As we get a nice close-up look at this, you can see the detail in this float.
Well, the smokestacks, it's almost a 3-dimensional look at the picture here. Just a beautiful shot of the smokestacks. Roses adorning this float. It says Murray City, reflections of our past, our present, and our future. And the Murray City royalty there. And from the sublime to the ridiculous, as we go from the Murray royalty to the clowns riding the parade route. And I think the camera guys down there are the ones having the real fun, the opportunity to go in and shoot the clowns.
We've got somebody spinning in circles.
And that's the cameraman. You should see what the clowns are doing.
Well, wearing Western uniforms and carrying a Western song, it's the Thermopolis High School Band. This band, under the direction of Bill Malloy, has won hundreds of prizes in Wyoming, Colorado, Utah, Montana, Canada, and South Dakota. Welcome to our friends from Wyoming.
And they're fixtures at the Days of 47 as well. They're a regular part of our Days of 47 parade. Their rendition of the Battle Hymn of the Republic. They're the folks from Thermopolis, Wyoming.
Heading up this band is something you don't see very often. It's a man twirling a baton.
That's right, and he is he's twirling it as well. It's 50, 60 feet in the air before it comes back down. And majesty of the eagle feathers in the Indian chief's headdress on this next float symbolize strength, determination, and the courage of the chiefs. Chiefs Wakara, Ure, Chipeta, Tabby, and Colorado. The float by the Sandy Granite Stake honors the Indian culture that, of course, has added so much to the heritage of the state of Utah. And Wesley Ruff a chance to talk with one of the chiefs as they made their way down the parade route.
Clint, you helped work on this float here. How long did it take you guys to get this float ready?
It took us almost 3 months just to put everything together. We've been working on it for the past 3 days to get all of the extras done, like the red stuff here and the feathers and stuff. Actual work started almost a year ago on the float.
I don't know if you can see that, but where the lettering is, look at the beadwork on the side of it. I'm sure it's obviously not beads, but right next to down the side, it looks just like Indian bead craft. There's the painting on it. But there you see it right above it. Each one of those, of course, individually glued in or stapled in and hand-painted. Just an incredibly beautiful float. And then down the back of the Indian headdress, you see all the red from the feathers on the way down. That is really a spectacular float from the Sandy Granite Stake.
That was one of the award winners in the historical categories.
It certainly should be. Looking now at the Studebaker, the 1928 Studebaker. Actually, there are two of them coming up.
They look like twin cars.
They are, same color schemes.
The car's owners, Clark DeWolf and Orville Larson, have taken these cars touring throughout the West. Clark's cars won several awards and has been on a number of national tours, and Orville has driven his car as far as Canada and the West Coast. He likes to take the Studebaker, he says, on a yearly tour in the West.
Sounds like a good idea to me, right? Get out and enjoy it. Beautiful automobiles, 1928 Studebakers.
Well, they're not going to do you much good in the garage.
No, they aren't. Look at the wood spokes on those wheels.
Think they've been oiled and polished much?
I think there's a little loving care been taken there. National forests in Utah. And, of course, much of our state is made up of national forest land, multiple use. And you see the mule string there. Forests of Utah provided natural resources to the pioneers as well. And these resources were critical to the survival and well-being of the pioneers. The national forests in Utah represent a tie between the pioneer spirit and life of our ancestors. The packer is Jack Hatch. Forest supervisors on horseback, Dwayne Tucker from the Ashley National Forest, Hugh Thompson from Dixie National Forest, Kent Taylor from Fish Lake, and George Morris from Manti LaSalle, Don Nebaker from Uinta National Forest, and Dale Bosworth from the Wasatch Cache National Forest.
You know, taking a look at the mules and the horses and all the animals here, getting them into downtown Salt Lake was quite a feat.
It was, and you can see the residual effect all the way along the road. No, it'll all be cleaned up. It'll all be taken care of.
Well, we've got a frisky horse there in the background. He doesn't really want to stay in line.
Well, that's what, as Wes asked them earlier about, do they like to parade? Obviously, some of them would rather be out on the trail, I think.
Those are always the horses I get when I go on rides. The ones who always want to go in the other direction.
That's right. Get the instant personality change, right? They tell you, oh, this is the most gentle horse you've ever seen. He does everything you ever wanted him to. Just in reverse.
Right. So old it hardly moves.
Momentary delay here as you look at the members. There's the gentleman from the Fish Lake National Forest with his proudly bearing his National Forest flag, and the rest of the other National Forest members in front of him there. Well, they got the horses squared away now. And you see some of the crowd standing atop the post office building looking down on the parade. That's their view, and we tilt down to show you directly in front of us as we're broadcasting here just across from Post Office Plaza.
Those umbrellas are for the sun, of course, not for any rain. It is as crystal clear blue skies as we could hope for.
A terrific Days of 47 celebration.
One thing I'm surprised at looking at these crowds is how orderly everything is. Even this morning, as people were trying to get good positions for the parade, I was really struck by how polite everybody was and how the younger children were all pushed to the front and made sure that they had the best seats in the house.
Well, here's the best seat in the house for this float. That's right.
The Dairy Farmers of Utah present a float saying good health, good luck for 142 years. The dairy farmers of Utah are vital to our heritage since Utahns are the nation's leading consumers of milk and ice cream. I know I've done my part since I've moved here. The dairy farmers have provided some of the world's best dairy products for 142 years. Riding on today's float are State Dairy Princess Darcy Monk from Cache County and her attendants, Donnell Anderson from Weaver County and Charity Wright from Utah County.
It'd be awful hard to argue with the good looks and good health monitor from that, wouldn't it? I tell you, that's a beautiful float. Of course, ice cream, Utahns, as we know, consume lots and lots of ice cream. We're glad to have Baskin-Robbins as our sponsor, one of our sponsors on our parade broadcast today. Certainly their product has been well used. And now,
what a reception.
Former Governor Jay Brackenlee riding in the next float. How can you not like Brack? This is the West Bountiful Stake paying tribute to Utah's governors past and present. Brigham Young, our state's first governor, presided over a state vastly different from that of today, and so did Brack, actually. The float is trimmed in handcrafted Seagull lilies, which remind us also of our state heritage. Of course, the Seagull lily is state flower. The reason for that is that the pioneers actually ate them that first winter, the Seagull lily bulbs, to help them subsist because of the problems in bringing in crops and the lack of planting time. So the Seagull lily, an integral part of the state's history as well.
Oh my goodness, we have somebody down on the road.
Look out, send the help. Well, I think the help's already there. The county fire department.
I don't think I'd want those paramedics working on me. Thank you very much.
There's no helping him, they've determined, and so he's back in and ready to go. And off they go. Fortunately, the rest of the Salt Lake County Fire Department is much more efficient.
There's one little girl standing right in the middle of the street behind this truck. I think she's just confused. What's going on, she says.
With the trumpet there, yeah. Overwhelming, right?
The Union High School Band comes to us to celebrate the Days of 47 all the way from Roosevelt, Utah. James Simon is the band's director here.
Somebody cue the band and we'll strike them up, right? Those uniforms have to be warm, cool weather or not.
Not to mention those headdresses.
That's right.
But you know, you don't see a complaining look on anybody's face.
No, that's true. I think they're just all more than happy to do their part. This is quite an honor for bands and for the floats to be selected for the Days of 47 parade. It doesn't actually cost them to get into the parade, the floats. There is no admission fee or entry fee. Floats and the miscellaneous entries are encouraged from all over, and the theme is always some variation of patriotism or hope, religion, and of course the remembrance of the pioneers. And now you're looking at the Big Business Award winner. The #1 float in Big Business Hardee's, the year-round sponsor of the Special Olympics, which brings year-round training and competition for mentally retarded individuals, celebrating the triumphs of the Special Olympic athletes. Riding the float are the princesses elected at the Special Olympics Summer Games. Hardee's is one of the sponsors of our telecast of the Days of 47 parade, and we're sure happy to have them. What a beautiful float that is. And they get to stand right in front of the reviewing stand here because there's a little backup on the parade route. You get a close-up look of the float entitled Our Special Pioneer Heritage.
And you know, if winning an award in the Special Olympics is an honor, I've got to think that riding on this float today and dressing up is also quite an honor.
I think so. For those princesses that were selected, I'm sure that that's quite a special award for them as well. And we're getting the waves as they go by.
Again, that's the big business winner. Here we have Frontier Pies celebrating the Days of 47 with this restored covered wagon drawn by 2 Belgian draft horses. Hi, guys.
The guys up front in the shade, I think, are the ones that have the good duty there.
Right, now their women are walking behind them in the sunshine.
You know, you got to be awful careful as you're a walker about the second third of the parade.
I would think so.
Yeah, it's not.
Lightly.
That's right. It's not as easy as it looks. Footprints of the Pioneers has a whole new meaning when you're after the 30th or 40th entry.
Okay, folks, smile pretty.
This is the West Jordan Central Stake Pioneer Photographers.
Now this here is the Elks.
This is right. That's the Elks. We're waiting for the Pioneer Photographers. It looks like they're on their way, and now we've got the Elks float.
This float's theme shows the Elks' commitment to our Utah veterans and all veterans nationwide. In 1946, the Elks pledged something I think very wonderful, that while there was even just one veteran confined in a veterans hospital, the Elks would never forget him. Riding on the float are Robert Jarvis, Vice President of the Utah Elks Association, Olive Tillotson, President of the Utah Ladies of the Elks, and American Legion members from Post 71. Good work, folks.
And there you see the theme of Utah veterans, a past to remember. Our next float is from the Taylorsville Utah Valley Park Stake, Utah Canyons Pioneer Legacy. It took over 40 years to complete the Salt Lake Temple. This float depicts the granite used to building it, coming from Little Cottonwood Canyon 20 miles to the southeast. Those boulders, often weighing 20 tons, were shaped by hand using drills, wedges, and chisels. And of course, this tribute sponsored by the Taylorsville Valley Park Stake. And up the canyon, even today, there are still some of the boulders. All of them had to pass inspection. It was not just a matter of simply chiseling out granite boulders. They had to be of a certain conformity, a certain size, a certain quality of stone. And today, there are many of the discarded boulders still up there with the chisel marks in them where they've been left for the past 100 and some odd years. But this was a monumental task. And you see the cornerstone depicted there at Little Cottonwood Canyon, the granite, and there's the man with the sledge.
Let's hope that's not a real sledgehammer, because that could get very heavy.
If it is, I'm going to hire that guy the way he's manhandling that thing. I need him to set fence posts for me.
Oh, no, am I allowed to have a favorite?
You can have one.
Okay. For kids' sake, yesterday, today, and tomorrow. With this float, we're honoring Utah's greatest natural resource, our kids. The children riding on our float have all participated in an essay writing contest explaining why they wanted to ride the For Kids' Sake float. On the float are Jill Sweetacha, Carrie Bateman, Christina Cartsonis, Deanne Locke, Kristen Fox, Brittany Evans, Jake Keith, Shane Stratton, Timothy Levitt, Eamon Torres, Jared Gomez, and Matthew Michael. Hi, kids.
Of course, our For Kids' Sake commitment is an ongoing one throughout the year, and Kimberly spearheading that from the station perspective. And I know you've had an opportunity to meet a lot of great kids and really see a lot of great programs for kids around the state in the last 6-7 months.
If you take a close look, there is so much here. And we also can point out problems, too, when we see things that need to be addressed. It's also a good vehicle for us to do that.
We're glad to be sponsoring the For Kids' Sake float and have those young people riding on the float representing KTVX. The winner of the Sweepstakes Award is the Taylorsville North Central Stake Saints of the Ship Brooklyn. While many of the early pioneers made the trip to Utah over the plains, the New England pioneers sailed west on the ship Brooklyn around Cape Horn. Remembered here by the Taylorsville North Central Stake, the waters were dangerous. The trip long, 6.5 months before they got to San Francisco. And then, of course, they had to come out to Utah. So the Sweepstakes Award winner.
This is really the grand prize winner, folks.
What a beautiful float. And as you watch it sail on by, we will take a break and we'll return to the Days of 47 parade in just a minute.
For about the same calories in this scrumptious pinwheel surprise, you could be enjoying Baskin-Robbins' new Low Light and Luscious, sweetened with 100% NutraSweet. It's sugar-free. This Tower of Temptation may be low in fat, but so is Low Light and Luscious. Smooth, creamy, and 97% fat-free, with 1/3 less calories than ice cream and all the taste you'd expect from Baskin-Robbins. So instead of Sprouts on a raft, why not enjoy Low Light and Luscious only at Baskin-Robbins?
121 years ago, a plan to bring goods to local communities was conceived, which helped Utah's struggling pioneers survive. That plan became known as Zion's Cooperative Mercantile Institution. Through 2 world wars, a depression, human rights changes, Utah and ZCMI have grown together. And the future looks bright as we all look toward tomorrow with a renewed commitment to not just survive, but to fulfill the foresight of our pioneer forefathers.
The only way to get fresher baked goods than Smith's is to bake them yourself. Because Smith's offers pastries, breads, rolls, baked fresh every day, along with special cakes for every special occasion. And the only way to get fresher produce for less than Smith's is to grow it yourself. We sell more produce than any other supermarket, so it has to be fresher. And it's all at permanent discount prices. Come to Smith's, the certified low price leader.
Welcome back to the Days of 47 parade on a beautiful morning here in downtown Salt Lake. The band you're listening to now is the alumni band from Liahona in the Kingdom of Tonga, and they're under the direction of John Kinnikini. Liahona High was founded by the sons of the Utah pioneers who went to the Tongan Islands as missionaries. Today, Liahona is the largest and most modern school in the Kingdom of Tonga.
And are these folks having a good time? They are glad to be here. Look at the energy expended.
The drum major.
That's what I call a case of energy. Here they go.
That's a lot of noise from not a real large band.
That's right, and we're looking at now the Salt Lake Wilford Stake Float, honoring Utah's pioneering women of medicine. Amid all the challenges of settling the new land, the pioneers faced the challenge of providing proper medical care. Some of the early women pioneers were called upon to enter the new and expanding field of medicine. With their training, they became a vital resource to the new and growing land, and you see the spotted kids, the measles kids, or chickenpox kids in the bed, whatever, and the cat on the bed.
It's exactly where my cat spends her night.
Salt Lake's Wilford Stake.
And from Geneva Steel and Utah, stepping forward together. A bit reminiscent of my old stomping grounds, Pittsburgh. The entry from Geneva Steel commemorates its commitment to a healthy Utah economy. The float salutes our traditions of patriotism and dedication to the American way of life. Riding this year's float is the Springville Art Museum royalty, Lori Overly Queen, and her attendants, Jill Hullinger, Holly Markrath, and Jackie Perry.
Pretty float from Geneva Steel.
Extremely patriotic, red, white, and blue.
It really is. You don't get much more patriotic than that. With the art queens aboard.
Coming up behind this float is something I've never seen before.
Well, you'll get a chance in a minute. Yes, it's the Noid, the Domino's Pizza Mini Hitch Express. The horses are full-grown, believe it or not, but they are only 34 inches tall. Don't be fooled, though. They can pull 4 times their own weight. The horses were originally given as gifts to royalty in the 16 and 1700s. Not these horses, of course. They're not quite that old. The miniatures were brought to the U.S. in the late 1800s to work in the coal mines because they could pull the extreme weights down there in the mines, and they could also, because of their small size, go through the tunnels at 34 inches high.
I love watching the children's faces as these little ones go by. The Bountiful Heights Stake has an entry here next. Handcart Pioneers, a tribute to perseverance, and that it sure was. Nearly 3,000 men, women, and children trekked some 1,000 miles by handcart to the Salt Lake Valley from 1856 through 1860. This tribute remembers the joys and hardships of one of those companies. The Willie Handcart Company of 1856 left Iowa late in the season, but early snowstorms halted the company in Wyoming with little clothing, less shelter, and no food. When news of their plight reached Salt Lake, teams were ordered out with food, clothing, and blankets to save this company and bring them home to the valley.
And they are followed by the band from Grantsville High School, Jim Javis, the director, continuing a tradition that began more than 100 years ago when Brigham Young commissioned the organizing of a brass band in Grantsville. Under the direction of Jim Jarvis, the band is well known for their music and original marching routines. And maybe we'll get a chance to see some of those right here in front of us. And then again, maybe we won't.
Two fine summer traditions represented here, the Hogle Zoo and Kool-Aid, proudly salute Utah's heritage and future with a float devoted to children. All the children on this float were winners in the Hogle Zoo and Kool-Aid coloring contest. The big cat you see on the float and the Kool-Aid man, by the way, they're just along for the ride. They didn't have to enter a contest.
They didn't have to enter the contest. That's good. Looking at those colors.
She's looking at that float saying, hey, maybe next year I can be on that.
A lot of happy kids.
Well, everybody does recognize the face of a Kool-Aid man.
That's
and
right.
A big tiger in back.
I like the little tail wheel on the cat in the back there. As you pan along his tail, right at the very end, you've got the wheel that I guess makes the whole thing go with the hat right on the back too. There you go.
What do you bet some fan ran out and put that on the tail?
I don't know what it says, but it looks like it could be a commercial for something. 4-H Riding Club up next. The Silver Bullets from Tooele County. They've been riding for 2 years, and all the members are from 5 to 16 years of age. Their drill mistress is Tanya Crittenden. The assistant is Angela Black. Leaders Hal and Laura Lee Crittenden, and assistant leader Boyd and Ann Black and Keith and Robin Feldman. 4-H, of course, one of the great programs for youth. Tooele County well represented with their band and, of course, their 4-H club now. Parade backs up a little bit here. We've got a momentary lull, but we should mention to you that with 140 entries, the task of coordinating the entries for this has got to be monumental to make sure everything runs smoothly. Of course, there are always inevitable breakdowns. You'll get a car that refuses to start, or maybe a horse that refuses to start.
I'm surprised, really, how orderly everything is. Entries that are supposed to be in a certain order really are coming up in that order. I can only imagine what it's like at the very beginning of the parade route. It must still be chaos up there.
Maybe we can find out if we can track down Wesley Ruff sometime in the next few minutes or so, and we can find out what it is like at the top of that parade route. This young man certainly enjoying himself down at the lower end of the parade. Let's see what's happening up at the top end. Wes, what's going on up there?
Steve, we've moved a little bit. Now we are about the middle of the parade, just below you guys, and we're talking to some people who have spent the entire night here to get these great seats. And sir, what's your name? Well, Drew. What time did you get here?
We got here yesterday afternoon, but part of our party was here Saturday afternoon to save the place for us. We came from Logan, Utah. My brother-in-law came from Ryrie, Idaho.
Now, you mentioned the word party. I think that is the operative word here when we're talking about what went on last night.
That's right. It was a wild party. It was a lot of fun. Had a lot of good time, and there was just a lot of good, clean fun on the street. Football, frisbee, just a lot of good fun.
And now it paid out because you've got some pretty nice seats here for the parade.
Very nice, very good parade. We really enjoy it.
All right, thank you very much. Steve, Kimberly, let's go back to you.
All right, Wes. You know, last night from our hotel, we heard so much noise and looked down on the street. It looked like Fort Lauderdale during summer holiday, where the boys are.
It's a great vacation weekend.
But, you know, being in the business of news, we might take the speed of our information a little bit for granted, but the Utah Pioneers didn't enjoy the luxury of up-to-date news until the completion of the Transcontinental Telegraph in 1861. The Salt Lake Wells Stake put together this depiction of the partnership of telegraph and newspaper in bringing timely and accurate information to the young Utah Territory. The information was transmitted over telegraph lines and transcribed and edited for publication in the next newspaper edition. Today, of course, we have satellite trucks that can beam anywhere around the world, point to point in just a matter of seconds.
Come a long way.
Makes you wonder what's coming up next, doesn't it?
It's hard to imagine. It certainly is. You're looking here at the U.S. Marshal for the District of Utah. The wagon here is a replica of an original prisoner wagon of the Utah Territory. And this kind of a wagon was used to transport prisoners throughout the Old West. Not exactly the preferred method of travel. If you were looking out from this, you had some hard times ahead.
One thing hasn't changed, the iron bars.
That's true. Gene Davis, U.S. Marshal, is what it says right there. U.S. Marshal for the District of Utah. And there's the prisoner. You got one in the back and one running alongside. Hi, Mom, he said. See, even in the Old West, the original refrain of Hi, Mom. I'm not sure if your debut on television in Prison Stripes is what Mom would have in mind, but...
You know, we haven't seen any runners go by lately, but early this morning we saw a tremendous number of marathoners come down the street. And that really is a tradition here which deserves a mention. The 10K and the marathon, which precede our parade every year. This is the 4th year the 10K has been run, but they've been running the marathon for the past 19 years. Most of the hardy runners left George Washington Park and Parley's Canyon this morning at 5:15. We've got to hope that most of them are finished by now.
Well, I think they probably are, and we'll, of course, have all the results for you tonight on Sports at 5:30 from both those events. As you get the I guess the 6th or 7th row view of the parade, this is if you didn't spend the weekend and didn't camp overnight. This is the view that you get. You know, it's interesting the change that goes on in the streets from about Thursday on, as you see one of the prisoners trying to make a little time, I think, instead of doing a little time there. But the change that goes on in the downtown Salt Lake streets from about Thursday when people start arriving and they start setting up their tents, and then on Friday more and more is added to it, and by Saturday, of course, it is simply a party scene, and then Sunday it takes on, as you said, the appearance of Fort Lauderdale on spring break weekend. This is really a festive atmosphere downtown, and there's a little jet lag as we spin around to show you the crowd waving to the Pioneer people walking down the street.
It's about 10 and 12 people deep in some places here.
There are some preferred areas, too, to be. There are some bleachers that are set up a little further down as you look at Utah's Pioneer Heritage, the float here coming by.
This is from the Salt Lake Community College. Having been a part of the community for over 40 years, the Salt Lake Community College is now in the process of renovating the old South High campus. Riding on this year's float are the elected student leaders of the Salt Lake Community College: John Jordan, Tom Sharp, Kyle Spencer, Ann Hurst, Jennifer Mickelson, and Cindy Atkinson. By the way, the community college is producing Promised Valley, which is going to be held nightly at the South Campus.
Which is obviously where the costumes came from for the parade with the hand carts. Members of the Salt Lake Community College.
They're performing this morning, and they'll be performing again at night, I guess.
A long day for those folks. During the Nauvoo winter of 1846, pioneers left their loved ones, their comfortable homes, and a newly completed temple to begin the arduous journey west. And that's commemorated in the Bluffdale Stakes theme, Exodus from Nauvoo, the Pioneer Trek begins. Remembered here are those pioneers that crossed the frozen Mississippi River as they looked for a new start in a land free from religious persecution. The Bluffdale Stake remembers that moment in history in their Pioneer Trek Begins theme.
Well, with a rendition of I'm a Yankee Doodle Guy, we have the Murray High School Band coming up behind the Bluffdale Stake. Here they are, the members of the Murray High School Tartan Band, directed by Brent Aplany. Let's listen.
The Murray High Spartan Band lead us to our next commercial break. We'll be right back with more coverage of KTVX's live parade coverage of the Days of 47 in just a moment.
Today's parade is being brought to you by ZCMI and by Hardee's. We're out to win you over.
The only way to get fresher fish or seafood for less than Smith's is to catch it yourself. That's because at Smith's, you can pluck your own lobster, clams, or mussels right from our tank, or land the catch of the day from a bed of ice. And the only way to get fresher meat for less than Smith's is to raise it yourself. Smith's sells more kinds and cuts of fresh meat and poultry than any other supermarket, and all at permanent discount prices. So come to Smith's, the certified low price leader.
What's this? The competition is flooding Gotham with dastardly car deals. Can nothing be done? Look!
It's back!
Thon is back at Toyota dealers everywhere. Armed with Toyota quality and Toyota value, Thon is out to save you big with the biggest incentives and option discounts in Toyota history. Yes, Thon could save thousands, millions. Will Tommy be saved in time? Find out now. Same Toyota Thon, same Toyota dealer near you. Stay tuned.
For about the same calories in this scrumptious pinwheel surprise, you could be enjoying Baskin-Robbins' new Low Light and Luscious, sweetened with 100% NutraSweet. It's sugar-free. This Tower of Temptation may be low in fat, but so is Low Light and Luscious. Smooth, creamy, and 97% fat-free, with 1/3 less calories than ice cream, and all the taste you'd expect from Baskin-Robbins. So instead of Sprouts on a raft, why not enjoy Low Light and Luscious, only at Baskin-Robbins?
Welcome back to the Days of 47 parade. Steve Brown along with Kimberly Perkins, and our next float is from the Bureau of Land Management, depicting a three-dimensional scene of the BLM emblem. Glenn Hatch up front representing the old-time surveyor, demonstrating the art to pioneer children, and railroads and other things. Of course, the surveyor was a critical part of the Old West. On the back of the float is Terry Cole, who is explaining to the backpackers the ever-expanding role the BLM is filling in providing outdoor recreational opportunities for the public. The BLM from the beginning of the Old West throughout today. A past to remember, a future to enjoy, it says. And there's a happy backpacker. She waves to someone in the crowd there. You know, you look at the old-time surveyor up front there, and it really is amazing how much work they did to get us to where we are today.
But you know, Singing was an essential part of the campfire meeting held every night while crossing the plains. Remembered here by the Salt Lake Hunter West Stake are those early pioneer choirs that helped soothe the weary bodies and minds of the pioneers and prepare them for the next day's journey.
And there are days when I'm sure the singing must have been extremely difficult, because there probably wasn't a lot to sing about when you put in the kind of days that they did. Wesley Ruff standing by mid-parade route right now. Wesley?
Steve, we've got a float here that's the Swiss Days Parade. We got the Alps here. Of course, it's fake, but the snow, it's so hot out here, the fake snow is even melting. What's your name, first of all?
Sarah Curry.
Sarah, is it fun riding on this float today?
Mm-hmm.
A little toasty out here, though, isn't it?
Very.
How are you enjoying the parade so far? Are you getting a lot of good comments from the people?
Yeah, kind of.
What do you mean, kind of?
Well, you get a lot of comments about our goats, mostly.
Well, it's hot enough to fry eggs on the cement here, Steve, and the Swiss Days Parade give you an idea of the cool weather we should be enjoying, although we are not. Back to you guys.
Now, don't be making any comments about the goats either, will you, Wes?
With pretty young women like that, who would look at those goats anyway?
I'll tell you, he's a strange one up there. That's all there is. The Pioneer Choirs float once again coming by from the Hunter West Stake, Hunter 4th Ward.
Now, I don't think the Pioneer Choirs were dressed up quite like that.
Well, could have been on Sunday and only for command performance, but no, you're probably right. This is the finery. They passed right before us, and they're going to be followed by a bunch of colorful characters, members of the Corn Creek Mule Club. And each year, their club sponsors the Millard County Rendezvous, the weekend prior to Labor Day. The Rendezvous features events like the Mule Scramble, Mule Races, Packing Contest, and the Mule Auction, plus a whole lot more, if that's not enough for you. Corn Creek Mule Club. Mules, again, one of the real key links in the chain that helped forge the West.
Well, they say mules can be obstinate, but this is one of the most orderly groups of animals we've seen today.
Well-behaved mule string there. And now here comes the
Here are
Swiss
Wesley's
Miss.
friends.
That's right, Swiss Days. They're none the worse for wear of having to sit and talk to Wes.
The Midway Boosters Club says, hey, we're proud of our Swiss heritage, and here's a float to prove it. Their continuing Swiss Day celebration is now in its 46th year. During the two-day event held over the Labor Day weekend, the town is filled with a Swiss atmosphere. But year-round, visitors can enjoy the authentic glockenspiel installed in the town hall just 2 years ago. Riding the float are Swiss Miss Heather Warnick and her attendants Stephanie Ridge, Sarah Collings, Corey Van Rosendahl, and Brittany Olsen.
And that's something that you need to see this year over Labor Day, your first Labor Day in Utah, because Swiss Days is really a great celebration. Utah's own Alps up there in Midway, one of the prettiest parts of our state.
I almost lost a couple of Swiss Misses on
You
that
notice
quick stop.
they're heading back to the back, too. The heck with this front duty. This is a group of friends and families that enjoy riding together, and so they've formed a group to call themselves the Rainbow Riders. The kids in the group show in 4-H shows, and they range in age from 5 years on up, including the little one in the front here, fixing his or her hat. I guess it's a his hat, right in the very front. There he is.
There he is.
With his American flag on his little Shetland pony. Quite a group, the Rainbow Riders. You see in the background the float coming up. It's an award winner there right behind the Rainbow Riders here.
Look at how it changes scenes.
The panels along this pioneer development of Utah's coal industry float.
This is the winner of the historical number 3 award. In 1854 at Fort Ephraim, a friendly Indian named Tabiona showed Brigham Young 2 black rocks that burned. Young, recognizing it as coal, asked for volunteers to open a mine called Coal Bed. The West Jordan Welby stake remembers the early coal mining industry here in Utah with this float.
Beautiful float. And they renamed Coal Bed Wales after the arrival of the railroads. Of course, the Welsh coal is known throughout the world. What a beautiful float here. And as you said, the panels rotating on the side change the scene. Well, there you go. There's a look at the train. And back to Fort Ephraim with Brigham Young receiving the first coal, the rock that burned. Great float.
Even if I did mispronounce Ephraim at the beginning.
That's all right. I've seen some of the Pittsburgh names. We'll go ahead and let you get by with that. All right, let's take a break as we look at the West Jordan Welby Stake float, and we will be back with more coverage of the Days of 47 parade in just a moment.
Today's parade is being brought to you by Baskin-Robbins 31 flavors and by Smith's, the certified low-price leader.
"121 years ago, a plan to bring goods to local communities was conceived, which helped Utah's struggling pioneers survive. That plan became known as Zion's Cooperative Mercantile Institution. Through 2 world wars, a depression, human rights changes, Utah and ZCMI have grown together. And the future looks bright as we all look toward tomorrow with a renewed commitment to not just survive, but to fulfill the foresight of our pioneer forefathers.
The Ghostbusters are at Hardee's. Get a slime or silly set with hamburger, regular fries, and green high-C Ecto Cooler. Only at Utah Hardee's. But hurry before they disappear. And watch out for those ghosts.
If you can't decide between Hardee's chocolate and Hardee's vanilla, now you can have them both. The cool twist cone, only at Hardee's.
return to the Days of 47 parade to the strains of the Hurricane High School Tiger Marching Band under the direction of Rhonda Rhodes, the music that they have prepared specially for this Days of 47 parade. Got the Bahamian look or the Jamaican look with the police-type helmets on. Quite a unique look for the Hurricane High Band.
Coming up behind them, the Utahns, a ladies' riding club with members from Davis and Weber counties. These women compete with other state clubs in parade and drill and have held the title of champions for the past several years. The Utahns are named for and dress in honor of the Ute Indians.
As we mentioned at the top, this is the 140th celebration of the Days of 47 parade. The first one was in 1849, just 2 years after the pioneers arrived in the valley. That one started with a blast of cannon fire, woke up several thousand residents, and started a tradition for beginning the holiday, which has continued through the years. But I think mercifully for the residents in the downtown area, they don't use the cannon blast anymore. That probably went out the window with noise ordinances, I think. But certainly the tradition of beginning the parade with a brass band has continued. As we take a look again at some of the members of the Utahns riding group now moving in front of us.
What we don't often see are these pauses where they've got to keep their horses in line because bands are playing or maybe some groups are performing up front and they've got to hold steady for 2 or 3 minutes.
You know, horses in parades obviously are traditional, and one of the most outstanding attractions of the Days of 47 is the horse parade that was held several days ago, ending at the Salt Palace with, of course, the PRCA-approved rodeo. But that parade of horses, I believe, is one of the largest, if not the largest, horse parade in the world. And then, of course, the rodeo begins, and that's drawing world champion cowboys and cowgirls to compete. There's more than $140,000 in prize money, the Days of 47 rodeo. So the horse, obviously, playing several roles in the Days of 47 celebration.
Here's a little bit of the Utahns performing. This authentic fifth-wheel farm wagon was modified and refinished to provide a showpiece for Metagold products in a traditional manner. The Belgian draft horse team pulling the wagon was provided by the Bebar Dairy Farm of Alberta, Utah.
That's a whole bunch of yogurt and ice cream and milk on the back of that thing.
I'd say that stuff's just a bit spoiled now. I don't see any refrigeration.
They're followed by the Murray Arts Council, celebrating their 10th season of Theater in the Park. This year, they're presenting 7 different shows in Murray Park, including South Pacific, Camelot, Annie, Peter Pan, The Wiz, Oklahoma, Cinderella, Little Abner, and Anything Goes. And you see characters from those productions riding on the float: John Williams, Amy Allred, Angie Cannon, Emily Diazevedo, Robert Lund, Robin Bishop, Bonnie Lund, Elisa Harris, Mary Williams, Jackie Levitt, and Walter Larrabee. There you go. With the parade slowed up, we got a chance to get all of them in.
Those guys are having a good time.
They really are. Especially the guys in the South Pacific outfits, huh? There you go. That's a young man just glad to be part of the parade and probably happy with his character. Theater in the Park from the Murray Arts Council.
And from monkeying around to Mickeying around. Coca-Cola, Disneyland, and Modern Display combined for a memorable past, a magical future. Together, they proudly present Mickey and Minnie Mouse, just in from the warm California sun of Disneyland. And I think my daughter Caitlin is at her happiest right now, waving at Mickey.
This has to be one of the favorites, I'm sure, for kids of all ages, the Disneyland float. Mickey and Minnie.
And here we have From Pioneers to Patriots, Utah Statehood 1896. This float commemorates Utah's admission to the Union in 1896 and comes to us from the Salt Lake Cannon Stake.
Some interesting concepts on this one. Ezra Taft Benson Sr., a pioneer in 1846, and his family left Nauvoo 50 years later. In 1896, the territory of Deseret became the state of Utah. The plowboy depicted on the On the float there is Ezra Taft Benson Jr., who, of course, became the Secretary of Agriculture and the president of the LDS Church. And the lady there sewing the flag.
Her name, Hannah DuPont. She embroidered 5 flags between 1902 and 1912, one of which became our state flag. And she's just out of camera range now, but she is behind that horn. There she is. Working to embroider a flag.
At that pace, it's going to be a while. Sitting atop the beehive. And the next float we're looking at, in 1978, Big Brothers and Big Sisters was established in Salt Lake City. Its purpose is to serve the single-parent families in the community by providing their children with male and female adult role models, along with friends. And with the support of companies like Pepsi, they're able to support 400 relationships a year. Riding on the float are Verna Martinez and Roxanne Cardwell as pioneers, Sierra Hayes and Genesee Hayes from the 50s, and Paul Mohamed and Tony Nofagato from the future.
You know, 11 years ago, I was a Big Sister in a Big Sister, Little Sister program, and I'm still friends with the young woman
Terrific
that
program.
I was paired up with.
Just a terrific program. See the car there in the middle, and got the hand cart up front, the jet pack on the back for the future.
Well, let's hope the program survives a good long time, because it sure is valuable.
All right, let's go to Wesley Ruff along the parade route and see what he's found next to comment on. I hope it's not the goats again. Wes?
No, we haven't found the goats, Steve. We are on the west side of the street, which is, as you know, it's the sunniest side. And we got a good thing going here, because we're sitting in a gutter and there's some water running down here. And this is the place to be. And with me now is
Linda Boquig.
Linda, you are from where?
Well, from Virginia Beach, Virginia. Just moved here, Salt Lake.
And this is your first ever Days of 47 parade, I would imagine?
Well, one a long time ago.
Oh. And how are you enjoying the parade so far?
Well, this is great, because before I was down at Liberty Park, but here we're in the water, like at the beach back home.
The kids have got to be loving this.
Yes, they are.
All right, we are on the west side of the street. It is cool here. Our little piggy's in the water. We'll go back to Steve and Kimberly.
Wesley, you didn't ask, of course, and so I will not tell you where the water came from, but that's all right. Just enjoy your cool feet. All right, we are back with the bands, the Bingham High School Band.
They're under the direction of Doug Gailey. And they've prepared a special round of music for the Days of 47 parade this morning.
They're playing up a storm at the corner of 3rd South and Main Street here in downtown Salt Lake.
You know, take a look at how these folks are dressed. I think of all the uniforms we've seen, this outfit makes the most sense.
Yes, that's the summer look, definitely. Bingham High School Marching Band, and they're finished with their score now, I guess, that they've specially created for these Days of 47 celebrations.
From the bountiful Utah State, we have winter quarters.
A couple of the band members took the opportunity to turn their blue shirts into something specially tie-dyed. Bit of individualism.
That's right, especially the guy on the big drum, right? There he is. Beautiful Pioneer Day, 1989. We hope you're enjoying our coverage of the Days of 47 parade. Kimberly, a new experience, and I trust that you're enjoying it as well. We could not, I don't know if it's the fact that you're here, but we couldn't have asked for a better day. It has been cool all morning and just a slight breeze. It's just been a terrific Days of 47. Our next float is from the bountiful Utah State. Winter quarters on the banks of the Missouri River was a great proving ground for faith. Planting crops for those who followed them, the inhabitants of winter quarters established a tradition. but maybe the animal life may have had its own ideas about those preparations. And this humorous remembrance is sponsored by the Bountiful Steak. And take a look at the animals on the float here as the kids go by, and you can see what we mean. There you go.
These guys say, hey, we were here first.
Coming out of the well or whatever the bear is doing there. And unfortunately for the camera or for the person in the suit there, they're on the other side. There's the one down the chimney, the bears.
They just want to use our ingenuity to stay warm.
That's right. I like the bear sitting in the, that's what it is. The bear in the coonskin cap is sitting in the wash basin. That's what he's doing. And the other one, of course, down the chimney, and then the one coming out of the cabin.
Well, I think the woman in that blue shawl is just a wee bit warm right now.
Well, it is, but, you know, I guess we could have done worse. Again, we could have had 100-degree temperatures,
That's
which
right.
has happened on the 24th of July.
No, it's very
before.
comfortable.
It's just a beautiful day. We hope you're enjoying the parade coverage. This parade is, it seems every year that you wonder what can they come up with to fit the Pioneer theme, and you see certainly a lot of the same things, but you also see some new things, like the humorous look at winter quarters. Of course, horses again, and we promised you earlier that we would see the horse sheriff's posse, not the motorcycle-mounted ones, and this is the members of the mounted posse.
Now, this is not like the days of the Wild West at all. I'd say things have changed just a wee bit. Now the posse assists the sheriffs in canyon and park patrol. They also help in searches when needed. The posse sponsors an annual kids' horse show each year and co-sponsors the annual Pony Express Re-Ride from St. Joseph, Missouri to Sacramento, California. I'd say these folks know how to handle their horses.
Yes, they do, and they're remarkably well behaved. So are the horses, but Sheriff's posse here. They'll be followed by the city of South Salt Lake coming up in just a moment. Their float is one that you can see all the way from the end of the street, the beautiful lime green float entitled Pioneer Heritage First in the Valley, showing the traditional site of the first overnight camp of the pioneers. South Salt Lake, which is often called the heart of the valley, their motto is the center of industry and community of neighbors. And riding on the float, Miss South Salt Lake and her attendants. The queen is Dawn Weber. Holly Ringer and Pam Haley are the two attendants. City of South Salt Lake. You know, royalty is certainly a very integral part of the days of 47, and Miss Emma Lunt was crowned as the first Queen Utah during the Golden Jubilee of 1897. Unlike today, the Queen's actual identity was secondary. Emma's title was simply Utah. She was chosen to represent the spirit of the state. You see her here. Her identity remained anonymous until the festivities began July 20th, 1897. She was not Mormon. She was born here in Salt Lake in 1874. Being chosen as queen, she said, was the highlight of her life. In 1901, she married Walter L. Ellerbeck and spent most of her later life in Ogden. She lived to be 84 years of age. That's the first Queen Utah during 1897, the Golden Jubilee. So they waited 50 years to crown the first queen.
From the South Jordan East State comes this tribute to early Utah industry. The old Dixie Cotton Mill in southern Utah was one of the pioneers' first efforts at a cotton industry in the new territory. The mill, along with the wool growers, gave our pioneer forefathers a solid base in providing the clothing and other commodities used in daily life. This comes from the South Jordan East Stake. And those kids are minding their animals very nicely there.
All right, and we're looking down the street. As this float passes by, our next float comes from Midvale City. And you see the royalty there.
Midvale's beautiful entry depicts the gateway to the heritage of the community. Dedicated citizens of Midvale working together to build a better city for everyone, now and in the future. On the float are Midvale's junior miss, Mindy West, and the attendants, Sharon Wadley and Jane Greenwood. I was in Midvale last week and met the mayor and some of the folks from council there. Great group of folks.
And here comes the royalty. Boy, what a pretty float that is. You know, it's funny. They put the royalty floats, and then they follow them with these with the old beat-up cowboys riding the stagecoach. I think it's simply for the contrast there, because there you have an 1848 Concord stagecoach pulled by a team of Belgian horses from the Sagewood Ranches. These guys coming down on the stage. The coach is handled by Jay Sorensen and Otto Jones. And a kids riding inside.
They've got their luggage on top.
They made a quick stop there. I like the shock absorbers. There you see the little fold, but I love the shock absorbers on these stagecoaches. You know, some of them did and some of them didn't, and you sure want to get a coach with a set of shocks on it. There you get a look at them, and you watch this thing sway on those steel shock absorbers as it comes down. Got the leather straps underneath to kind of cradle it.
Well, it's slow going by today's standards, but I guess that was the height of luxury at one time, wasn't it?
Yeah, that was a good way to travel. It beat an old buckboard anyway. You had shade and cover and a little bit of protection. That thing rocks like my old 61 Comet used to, though. It's got about the same suspension system.
Up next, Ernst, Pioneers in Home Improvement, celebrates its 96th anniversary this year. Riding on the float today, Debbie Wilson, Reese Weaver, Scott Hale, Bruce Kalmbach, and Don Schultes.
The Eagle, a replica, of course, of the Eagle Gate that stands at the head of State Street. And there are the Pioneers. There's some work in that, in crafting that float. And how about this one, the Orem City Royalty Float. Faith, hope, and charity, the key to our heritage, past and present and future, is the theme of this float. Brought to us from Orem City. Boy, is it colorful. Three lovely ladies are winners of the Miss Orem pageant. Gina Moody, Miss Orem, and her attendants are Candace Taylor and Mindy Hatch, riding that beautiful, purple and pink and red. Just a beautiful float.
Is it my imagination, Steve, or are we seeing an inordinate number of very lovely young women today?
Well, I think if you've got it, flaunt it, right? And I think the state certainly has, and so what the heck? Let's have as many of them as we can fit into the parade.
Show it off.
Beautiful float, though. Just, again, the work involved in these is amazing. Had a chance, about 10 or 12 years ago to be involved in putting a float together, just peripherally, and to see what it took was just incredible. And that was just a small float. When you look at these, there are hundreds and hundreds of man-hours involved.
These folks here are representing the National Pony Express. This group of riders just can't stop living in the past. They're members of the National Pony Express Association. This year, the association completed the 11th annual re-ride of the original Pony Express route. The group rode over 1,900 miles in 10 days from Missouri to California. The Utah division of the National Pony Express Association has over 70 riders and carried the mail from Evanston, Wyoming to Ibapa, Nevada.
Nevada.
I'm still learning that one.
That's all right.
I was so worried about getting Ibapa right.
You did just fine. There's an overview looking north up Main Street from our camera at 4th South. And you see the floats coming underneath. In the foreground is the Orem City float again. And now we're looking at the Kearns East Stake entry. In 1869, Brigham Young organized what was then known as the Young Ladies Retrenchment Association. This float is a tribute to those early pioneer women and all the women in Utah history, and it's sponsored by the Kearns East Stake. Today, the Young Women's Organization of the LDS Church is obviously not called the Retrenchment Association anymore, but the goals are still the same. Those young ladies from the Kearns East Stake.
And from the city of Tremont in Utah, here comes the Bear River High School Band. This band's performed at the Calgary Stampede and participated this spring at Disneyland for the Disney Magic Music Days under the direction of Wayne Jensen. This past fall, the band placed third at the Nebo Tournament of Bands in the A Division. And here we can hear why they're so well rewarded.
Get our photographer right there in with the Bear River Band. Let him spin around and look down Main Street. Take a look at what the band sees as they... Here you look up Main Street as they come towards us. Entry is sponsored by Intermountain Healthcare, and it salutes the history of the nursing profession here in the state of Utah. from caring for the pioneers with basic equipment to caring for you and I today with modern medical technology. The key word in their profession has always been caring. The nurses on the float are from LDS, Cottonwood, Altaview Hospitals, as well as Primary Children's Medical Center. These folks do an awful lot of good.
They sure do.
The guy in the wheelchair is telling us he's warm. He's got the blanket around him. And
We even have home care nurses represented there.
look at it. Is there a doctor in the house?
From Riverton City's July 4th Town Days to the Days of 47, come the Riverton City Queen, Brenda Campbell, and her attendants, Tina Bennett and Jennifer Horsley. They look
Ladies, yeah, they're probably warm in that in those gold dresses. See the hummingbird? They're done in gold. Pretty float from the city of Riverton. And we will take a break and be back with more in just a moment from the Days of 47 parade.
Today's parade is being brought to you by Hardee's. We're out to win you over. And by Baskin-Robbins 31 flavors.
For about the same calories in this scrumptious pinwheel surprise, you could be enjoying Baskin-Robbins' new Low Light and Luscious, sweetened with 100% NutraSweet. It's sugar-free. This Tower of Temptation may be low in fat, but so is Low Light and Luscious. Smooth, creamy, and 97% fat-free, with 1/3 less calories than ice cream and all the taste you'd expect from Baskin-Robbins. So instead of sprouts on a raft, why not enjoy Low Light and Luscious only at Baskin-Robbins?
The only way to get fresher deli foods than Smith's is to own your own New York deli. But then you still wouldn't have the variety and selection of cheeses, meats, salads, and prepared foods, including our marvelous party trays. And the only way to get fresher meat for less than Smith's is to raise it yourself. Smith's sells more cuts of fresh meat and poultry than any other supermarket, and all at permanent discount prices. So come to Smith's, the certified low price leader.
Holy rebates! Can't anybody save me on a truck deal? Fun!
The fun is on at your Toyota dealers. All over Gotham, the competition is plotting some fiendish truck deals. But never fear, Thon is armed with the biggest incentives and option discounts in Toyota history.
Thanks, Thon.
Thon will save thousands, millions. Will Judy be saved in time? Find out now. Same Toyota Thon, same Toyota dealer near you. Stay tuned.
From high above Main Street, as you look down at the West High School Marching Band, and we listen to them as we are here at our broadcast position. We're about, probably 3/4 way through with this 1989 Days of 47 parade. And again, we couldn't have asked for a much better day. You look at some of the members of the West High Band, and they seem to be enjoying the shade here.
I'd say this parade has gone off without a hitch.
Well, the band is under the direction of Mark McCullough, and they come back out into the sunlight. West High School Marching Band.
Up next, the Small Business Award winner. From the Rose Shop comes Gardens Out of the Desert. Hundreds of carnations, roses, mums, and ferns make this float into a picture-perfect setting for Miss Salt Lake Valley, Wendy Birch, and her attendants, Stacy Lambton and Andrea Dawson.
And of course, the desert blossoming as a rose. The valley looks a lot different today than it did when the pioneers first came in.
Look at the flowers on that float. Those are all real flowers, folks.
From the Rose Shop, the Small Business Award winner.
Kearns North Stake represented here. Utah Valley settled, 1849.
It's paying tribute to the pioneers who settled the valley and as an important food source to the early settlers. As we mentioned earlier, the sago lily played a key role in sustaining life. It's been the Utah state flower since those early days, and eating the bulbs really contributed directly to the survival of many of the pioneers in that first winter.
This stagecoach comes from Sherwood Hills Resort and Restaurant in Wellsville, Utah, located between Brigham City and Logan. The horses are owned and driven by Troy Haviland.
And it is followed by the West Jordan City Float, Rounding Up Old Memories, sponsored by the Good Neighbor Council and the City of West Jordan. Reminds us the West Jordan was one of Utah's first thriving communities. West Jordan's Junior Miss Royalty, the Queen Melanie Mealing, along with her attendants Rachel Fitzgerald and Jennifer Anderson there riding on that float. Rounding Up Old Memories, West Jordan City.
And if you're hearing a bit of country music, here's why. Riding the KSOP float, please welcome the West Jordan Stampede Royalty. Queen Heidi Bates, attendants Rachel Stewart and Carolyn Smith, Princess Rachel Elliott and her attendants Lana Spikes and Jamie Bergman. They've got the crowd clapping their hands as they go down the street.
They certainly do, and they're going to be followed at the end of the parade by the members of the Days of 47 Parade Committee, and we want to extend our sincere thanks right now to the chairman, Jerry Dunyon, for his help in putting this together for us, and co-chairman Jack Ferdner. The executive secretary is Nancy Carlin. Thanks to those folks who've done just a terrific job.
Ryan Dawes treasurer, Dan Hurst was in charge of commercial floats. Craig Haslam, LDS Church floats. Keith Tripp, horses. He had quite a job today.
He certainly did.
Hal Riddlensbacher in charge of all the bands here, and Gerald Duffin in charge of traffic.
And there's our old friend Ned Winder as he comes down. He is a fixture at the Days of 47. You'll see him on the sound truck as he follows the parade committee. We also want to thank Cellular One, who provided the communication equipment to today's parade personnel. And, of course, the special thanks to the Utah State Historical Department and the LDS Church Historical Departments for all their help with our historical research, because we try to bring you a little bit more than just the parade coverage as well, perhaps a little bit of the history that goes into it, and certainly without the help of those folks, we'd be unable to do that. So thanks to all of those who made it possible.
There are a lot of unsung heroes that participated in this year's parade. All the folks who do the organizing, just setting up and getting the streets ready, getting streets blocked off. All the folks who are going to do the cleanup.
That's right.
That's quite a job.
They're the ones I think that we need to really acknowledge, because they'll make your way home just a little bit easier. Well, we hope you've enjoyed our parade coverage. I hope you've enjoyed your first Days of 47.
I've had a ball. I hope there's a lot more years ahead of this.
I think that's probably a safe assumption. For Wesley Ruff, Kimberly Perkins, I'm Steve Brown. Thanks for joining us, and we'll see you tonight at 5:30 and again next year on the Days of 47. Good afternoon.
Bye-bye.
Check it out, Emily. Where's that smile? Oh, you're welcome.
Be a wheel watcher. Be a wheel watcher.
Take a look.
Play along on Wheel of Fortune.
Tonight at 6 o'clock on KTVX.
Some stains get on the fabric, but when they take hold of the fabric itself, you need New Hope, New Era, a new, more powerful protein to help seek out the stain, to penetrate down to the very fiber, to strip it clean. So now, when stains get so tough you think you'll never get them clean, don't give up hope. Reach for New Era, New Hope for tough stains.
Here's the Huggies film crew shooting a commercial for a new Huggies diaper. It stops leaking like never before. And here's our star, Kleenex Huggies Super Trim Diapers with new leakage control shields. And action! Now, extra barriers inside each leg help block leaks and funnel wetness into Huggies' exclusive blue inner layer. They cradle baby shape to stop leaking better than ever. With new leakage control shields from Huggies, our crew's all smiles.
KTVX is proud to have presented the Days of 47 Parade. Today's parade has been brought to you by Smith's, the certified low-price leader, by ZCMI, by your Toyota dealers, Toyota quality. Who could ask for anything more? By Hardee's, We're out to win you over. And by Baskin-Robbins 31 Flavors.
Due to the length of the preceding program, we now join the following program in progress.
Whoever said the doctors never give you a straight answer?
You told me that's what you wanted, Travis.
Yeah, that's what you gave me, so I'm gonna die.
If we don't operate, yes.
What happens if you do operate? I mean, you're gonna look me in the eye and tell me you're gonna do a brain operation and you're gonna tell me I'll come out just as good as new?
No, I can't promise you that.
No, I didn't think so.
If we do operate, there is a chance.
Chance for what?
To live.
All right, Cliff, let's just get right down to the bottom line, shall we? What's this all about?